just 3 games there in that first one, but they can be long, right? That's a lot of games, especially Armageddon, which is what their last, not the one we just saw, but their previous match in the event went all the way to Armageddon, 5 games. It's quite a lot of chess, especially against the exact same player.
Yeah, it's about an hour nonstop. I was going to ask, do you think playing on a tablet influences the blunders whatsoever? And the only reason I say that is you're so used to playing on a computer. I don't know if you've played other tournaments on a tablet, but even though it's still a 2D board, maybe it's a smaller screen, maybe the angle of looking down on a tablet is still different, right? I'm not used to looking down on a tablet, moving my finger. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think about, like, if I was a player, if there was a longer break and I'm in Magnus's corner, do you think about? I mean, he got to the finals playing on a tablet, but
Correct.
still, it's just like sometimes you're like, how could I possibly make that kind of blunder? And you're like, what can I change because that's not me. But he's still on the tablet. Game
Yep.
one, second match, grand finals, Magnus Carlsen, Jan-Krzysztof, Duda, and we have more of a classical structure here compared to the other openings, right? Magnus feels like the approach has changed. He was playing e4, playing some sidelines, or last game was just first move e3. This is a more standard position, although not necessarily one he always chooses, where yeah, the IQP is white.
Yeah, I think it's almost like the meme where all of a sudden Magnus is sitting up in his chair. He's focused. He's alert. He's ready to actually play now. Not to say that he wasn't trying in any of those games. Those were legit misses, but he can't experiment as much, right? It's not the time for e4 knight a3 and e3 on move one. Although now that I think about it, the position he got after e3 was great. So
Yeah,
maybe he's not going to question the result because the process was good, but nevertheless, he is playing something much more standard here.
it's something much more standard, but it does force Magnus to commit to an attack. Generally speaking, structurally, that IQP isn't a big advantage. It can give you an initiative, but in an end game, some aspects of the game that Magnus likes to play, not so good. That's something that Black can target. And we see Queen D3, threatening mate, G6 played
Mhm.
right away. It's a position that Duda should be quite familiar with. So in terms of Magnus playing against the opponent, trying to play positions you don't know so much, even though they're not theoretical, this really is a different approach. And I'm not sure I like it that much when I think of his strengths. I mean, he can play any position, but Duda, very comfortable here, playing all the right moves. And in a couple moments, we'll have to ask, how does Magnus continue the attack, continue the pressure on Black?
Yeah, these isolated pawn positions, usually what happens is the more pieces that get traded, the worse it is for the player with the isolated pawn. Of course, it does depend which pieces we're talking about. And not every piece trade is a good one. Perhaps this is an example, but one of the things I'm thinking is that knight on a4 wants to immediately jump in to the c5 square. If you can get that dark square bishop off the board, it's clear that the black king is going to be suffering as a result. But if you don't take this knight, I mean, look how powerful it is disrupting the whole position.
Yeah, as soon as I said I kind of like Black's position, Duda played a natural move, but it seems to be a mistake. You see knight c5, you see the exclamation mark. Bishop is being hit. Black doesn't normally want to take on c5, weakening the dark squares, giving white the bishop pair. And you see that king position, that g7 weakness that favors Magnus having the dark square bishop and the bishop pair. But I'm also seeing some ideas that are typical in the structure, and that involves sometimes you sacrifice on e6, Amon. Not
Hmm.
yet, but sometimes you can actually envision. I'm just going to show, just for the audience sake, rook takes g6, and then you get these mating ideas in, and it's mate in a couple moves. So with that bishop on h6 and all the pieces pointing towards that king, there's some ideas here. Rook c1 played first, and you don't have time to play knight takes d4 because queen takes d4. You're threatening mate here. No time to recapture on c5. So Magnus
Hmm.
is playing this really well, even though it's not an opening he always chooses. The initiative is firmly in his favor.
And just to reiterate how high the stakes are here, I think they were even a little higher than perhaps we were letting on because it might feel that this is in the winner's bracket. It kind of is, but technically we're dealing with two players that have lost a match in the entire event. So it qualifies more as a loser's bracket matchup, which means we don't have those full 4 games again. The reset is just 2, which immediately the stakes are much higher because each individual game is worth so much more. If Magnus has the same start that he had in the last one, there's no like, oh, let me get the white pieces again and come back. No, the first strike here could mean everything.
And that might favor Duda because he actually played a 2 game match. I didn't even realize that. Like being a winner is usually a good thing, right? But he has not played a 2 game match. Is Magnus ready for what needs to be done here, Amon? That sacrifice I was talking about is now available. Knight
Yep.
takes. The reason there's a question mark here. Look at all of Black's pieces. They're not concentrated nearest king. That's the moment you look to strike. Knight e6 takes. You have a couple ideas. You can take with the rook, that mating idea. Sometimes you can even throw in bishop b3, and there's
Mhm.
no good way of defending that. But I feel like rook takes e6 here looks really, really good. Still, bishop e6 ideas in the future if you need to add more fuel to the fire, but really scary mating ideas, and Magnus is calculating that for sure.
Yeah, because and he's played bishop b3, so obviously this will go down as a big miss. You see that red X. It doesn't mean that bishop b3 is a bad move. I mean, it
No.
looks great. I think what plays into your mind as well is that knight e6 is so committal. Like it's hard to calculate every single move, and if I'm wrong about something, I've thrown away my great position. And Magnus played a move that still leaves him with a great position. Not to mention, knight e6 is a move that's really difficult to stop. So, for example, you can go knight d5, and I'll do it anyway. Knight takes e6. I'm sure that we could play again here.
An h5 natural move, it only makes knight takes e6 stronger in the future because it weakens the king side. But I feel
Yep.
like that match situation plays a role. It's a 2 game match. If it was the start of today, Amon, 4 game match, and Magnus knows he can lose the first match even, and this was the first game, he might have played it. But the
Yep.
stakes are so much higher here because if he's wrong, he doesn't see till the end. He loses the first game with white. He doesn't have much time to come back. He's probably lost a little bit of confidence. So definitely, I think that's played a role. Still like his position a lot, especially after the last move. You look at this bishop on b7, it's blocked by its own pawn, and the dark squares are really weak for black. So Magnus maybe doesn't have those really flashy checkmating ideas, but he has a stable, comfortable advantage that he can milk for a long time. That's what he loves to do.
Yeah, this is a really, really nice position. The bishop quality is the difference, and the king safety. Bishop on b7 compared to its counterpart on h6. Meanwhile, the white king, absolutely fine. You're mentioning rook b1. You could jump in rook b6. And if the bishop goes back to a8, I mean, there's cases where we just play a move like queen takes a6. I mean, you could play this in so many different styles. I think looking at the bishop on h6, immediately my attention is drawn to the king side. But just goes to show how good the position is. An endgame will be good. You can take the a pawn. You can play for the dark squares. If the knight moves now, you might be looking at ideas like rook takes c8 and queen e8. So you have to be careful of your back rank now, as well as the dark squares.
Yeah, that's like an example of the back rank. Queen e3, it's a nice move. I think Magnus is trying to play against this knight. It takes away knight e7, knight f5, thinking
Mhm.
about ways that black can migrate. Black needs to migrate pieces over the king side. This move like f6, it might look like it's weakening, but it does give the king a little bit of breathing room, and it takes away some of those back rank mating ideas that you alluded to.
And I think that the king f7 move is necessary because I was immediately looking at a move like knight h4, and there's almost no way to defend that pawn. So king f7 will come into effect, and this rook b1 move, question mark, I'm just going to say that feels harsh.
No,
Unless
not
there,
yeah.
unless there's a win here for black, that's a bit absurd. It looks like a great move. I assume rook b6 is the intention, but I will say queen d3, putting pressure on a6 and g6 feels good. And the fact of the matter is we were on d3 before, so it feels like the exact same move, rook b1, but now we've done it maybe 2 moves later, so black's position perhaps can deal with it a bit better.
Yeah, queen d3 looks good attacking both of them, but yeah, previously it was a lot stronger because knight e7, knight f5 is coming in. It's still, no matter what happens, the reason we're saying it's harsh to say it's a bad move for Magnus is his position is good. The bishop on a8 simply not in the game. All of
Yeah,
white's pieces are generally quite good. Bishop f4. Amon, what are you looking at here? Bishop f4, and that's
it's
just
just
a
a simple one.
blunder from Jan-Krzysztof Duda.